Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. And yet again, we are taking um, we're doing a travel log as we go into Planescape, the gate towns of concordant opposition, where the ring world city of Taurus, ring world Taurus city of Sigil exists. Yes, I'm calling it Sigil, and our exploration of the lower planes of evil and chaos, and a little bit of law in there as well, and really discuss not just the physical environment of these planes in our fantasy role playing from the world's most popular role playing game, but really, like, why would we even be there? I come up with a lot of storylines attached to said exploration. So today we are talking about, well, there's actually contention as to what the name of this gate town is. And so, for those who don't know what gate towns are, in the plane of concordant opposition, the plane of neutrality, true neutrality in the alignment system, uh, in Planescape, the planes are the physical representation of ideology, of belief. And of course, there was a 9 point, or there really is still a 9 point alignment system, and Planescape really embraced this. And in the plane of neutrality, also known as concordant opposition, there's a huge spire. This spire is actually infinitely tall. You could never arrive at the top of it. And floating around the top of the spire is the city of Sigil, and it is a torus. It's a round donut. And um, that location is has a city in it. Of course, if you walk on the city, you could look up, and as you look up, the city curves up into the sky, and then if you look directly above your head, you can actually see the tops of buildings. Hey, Drew. Hey, yeah, no one's here today, but that's fine. We'll just hang out if you don't mind, or if you've got something to do, it's fine. We the show will be here in perpetuity as long as YouTube still exists, and Twitch as well. Um, so today we're going to travel to what I pronounce as chaos, XAOS. Sometimes it's known as XAOS, or it could be pronounced X XAOS, but it's the plane of chaos. And even the people, the residents of the gate town of chaos that live there, don't even have a um and it's pretty ridiculous, but even they don't agree on what the name of the gate town is. And a gate town is a way for us to introduce the idea of some of these planes to our player characters. And if you're able to find the gate, you can go to thanks, Dead Man. Dead Man proving the fact that the digital information is incorrect, because there are literally at least two people here, and it's only showing one. Yeah, and yes. So, as if I hover over it, it's, yep, just one on YouTube and no one else from Facebook or Twitch. Yeah, whatever. Um, hey, there. I'm not going early. We haven't had our time change hasn't happened here yet, at least in Ohio. It's November. Nope, nope. You've had time changed. We don't have time change. You have time changed. Uh, how much we love it. So, uh, excuse me. Limbo is the plane of pure chaos. It is absolute chaotic neutrality, and it is yet another one of these planes of existence where the even the gods themselves are known not to live here, because it is so strange. And as a matter of fact, in based on the era of Dungeons and Dragons you've played, whether third edition or fourth edition and such. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh, they changed the arbitrary fractions of eternity. Into Gemini, I found out from DBJ, chaos. It is chaos. Yes, absolutely. So much so that even the plane of limbo has been attached to the elemental planes of uh, almost considered an elemental plane of chaos in and of itself, and it breaking the rules that the outer planes really don't have that much connection to the inner planes. I think it actually fits with the plane of limbo and chaos. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Time to get impregnated by a slotty egg. For those who don't know, let's see if we can find some pictures of slotty. Um, Almost sometimes um, misspelled or spell corrected back into salads, but that is not their name. They are known as the slod or slotty. Slaadi for um, for a come on, show up on the screen. Here's some images of them, and for some reason they are able to impose their will in the realms of chaos, and they actually represent a strange organization from a world of chaos. But I get the impression that they are able, because of their great psychic potential, that they're able to spread their chaos to others, their insanity and things like that. And different slotty come in different colors, and their colors allow them to um, have power over the ones that are of a lesser state. And I remember all the way to the left, I remember these images of the slod. They're like frogs, powerful killer frogs, but almost like frogs nonetheless. And they breed by implanting eggs inside of their hosts. It's pretty nasty stuff. But you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Okay, let's leave that right there. So, um, these gate towns, I think is a great way for us to like introduce this idea and introduce it for our players, so that when they get to, if they really want to go into the extra dimensional planes, again, using that modron powered train to go to these different gate town cities, and the players may go, no, we're not going to those locations. Now, something that I didn't bring up last time we talked about, like the gate town of Ribcage and some of these other towns, are they actually have a mechanical physical feature. For example, in this town of Chaos, XAOS, um, the one of the regional effects is when a creature in Chaos casts a spell that deals acid, cold, fire, or lightning damage, the gate town attempts to substitute that damage type for another. So you roll a d4 for the new damage type, if any, and it instead becomes acid, cold, fire, or lightning in that order, d4. The effect can change only one damage type per casting of a spell. So even if you start to cast spells that enervate with a lot of energy, there's a possibility it's just going to change over to another damage type. So that fireball might become, an acid ball or a ball of cold or lightning or something of that nature. I would even extend that to maybe some character capabilities or even magic items and such. Yep. Drew says the best D&D frogs will for me always remain the Koatoa. Yeah, the crazy ones that like build their own god through their insanity. I think they perfectly fit here in Limbo, to be honest with you. Trolls fit. There are some what is it? The screaming undead, the I think they fit from the madness and such. Yeah. Shai says Slotty are another example of the universality of Planescape. You'd have to be really high level to kill the least of them, and they tend to come in groups. Yeah. They're pretty powerful. I mean, heck, we find like let's see. Um Stat blocks. Let's find some slotty stat blocks and then difficult to find here. D&D wiki. There we go. Let's go to the see if we can find a D&D wiki. There we go. Let's see. We got red, slotty, chaotic, neutral. Let's see. To go any further than that? All right. So this is a red one. Let's see. Armor class 14, natural armor, 93 hit points. Pretty cool. This got to be lowest level. This is wisdom of 6, intelligence of 6, and a charisma of 7. And that's very low level. Of course, they have telepathy, damage resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, and thunder damage. Ooh, that makes them tough. Advantage when saving throws against spells and other magical effects. They have regeneration, multi-attack, a bite, and a claw. Let's see, the bite does 8 or 2d4 plus 3, and the claw attack does 7 damage or d8 plus 3. So they're the lowest level, but pretty damn tough. And if a humanoid, from the claw attack, if the target is a humanoid, it must succeed on a DC 14 Constitution saving throw or be infected with a disease of a minuscule slod egg. Yeah. Ooh. There is a. How can I explain this? Because of the movie Alien, there was a storyline with the X-Men involving an alien species known as the Brood, which was basically the xenomorphs. And they would implant an egg inside of you. And the storyline depiction of it was each of the characters implanted with the egg would go through a series of nightmares. And if you failed to overcome your nightmares, the egg would physically grow inside of you. And Wolverine was implanted with an egg. Storm was implanted with the egg, and many of for example, like the character Storm, who always was known to have claustrophobia, she was psychically attacked by the egg. I would love to put something like that to describe to the players, if they've been infected with one of these slotty eggs, how it's affecting them and affecting their dreams and the chaos around them. Also, let's share this instead. On the plane of limbo, itself, once you've passed the gate, has some pretty interesting effects on what the players can and can't do, and how the physical representation of chaos, and it's pretty wild, almost impossible to navigate, and they do come up depending on whether it's second edition, third edition, fourth edition Dungeons and Dragons. They had specific rules for interaction on Limbo. One of them was pretty basic and horrible. The others tell a much better story. What is Limbo? The ever-changing chaos of Limbo is a plane of chaos. It is known as a bubbling soup of elements and energy. Those who reside on this plane do so either to prove their strength against the chaos, to revel in the chaos and let it drive them forward, or they got lost and can't find a way to leave Limbo. And there really isn't a city. They say it's 5 levels, but then there's also the idea that all 5 levels are mixed in together, and nearly impossible to map out a place of pure chaos. An outsider's perspective, okay? To any outsider, Limbo is a mess, and there's no other way about it. Most people call it ever-changing, but that does little to accurately describe how chaotic and tumultuous this plane truly is. Most visitors like to compare Limbo to soup on a roiling boil, with the contents and type of soup constantly changing in and out of different materials and energy. In one moment, the soup could be full of potatoes and leeks. In the next moment, the potatoes have changed into diamonds and the leeks into an explosive gas that sets fire to the peas that suddenly appear in the broth. Just as soon as the peas appear, they morph into crackers made of hoarfrost that begin spewing acid and frozen metal in equal measure. Why there isn't a compound random table of changes, I don't understand. Like it would it would be pretty easy to write down um, some random physical material, some random energies, and decide how soon, like every hour, every minute, every round of combat or something, things would change, including the fact of breathable air.
I call this one a banker's bonus. All is
So live
fair in
here on
Monopoly.
Limbo. Here, Limbo as a brutal live here see Limbo as a brutal and deadly proving ground. Their resolve is unmatched, and they revel in the constant fight for survival. Those who make mistakes or get sloppy are quickly destroyed by the plane. Those that have survived here have done so thanks to their iron will and their stubbornness, or they just try to make the best of the situation. And you'll see, looks like a monk of attacking a slod, and you'll see why that is. Talk about the atmosphere, that there are pockets of breathable air, but it just as soon turns into, you know, ionized lightning or something like that. Even traveling to the plane is difficult because the gates change constantly. So traveling to this plane can be accomplished in the usual manner of traveling from a neighboring plane, like Isgard or Pandemonium, through portals that link them. A traveler could also travel from the Outlands through the gate town of XAOS, Chaos, or Zaos from Sigil, or by taking a jet black color pull from the astral plane. One of the problems that face would be visitors is that these portals are rarely reliable, and while they might be marked to take you to a specific place in Limbo, they could throw their travelers anywhere in the plane. Many travelers have taken a portal to Limbo, and before they can even get their bearings, they're immediately encased in the air around them when it changes to stone. Then trying to transverse the plane, which is very difficult. Trying to use teleport spell, which is horrible. Now this one is point blank bullshit. Damaged by the plane. An unprotected traveler who doesn't have a sphere of influence is exposed to the chaos of Limbo is more than likely to die within a few minutes of arriving on Limbo. Exposed to the constantly shifting elements of this plane, from fire to ice to lightning and more, travelers will quickly succumb to the devastation of this plane. Second edition recommends that damage be dealt every round by rolling a d10 and then rolling a number of d6s equal to the number on the d10. For a tighter controlled amount of damage, DMs could instead choose to deal damage every round equal to a number of d6s equal to the character's proficiency bonus. Certain elements, like being submerged in a massive orb of water, don't deal damage, but instead a character would begin suffocating. Uh, I don't know. Boring. Yeah, Deadman says the monk is literally is likely to get the ZRA. Now, we're 2 seconds. We're to get into why would monks be on this plane, but whatever. Yeah, Shai says yes. A nightmare egg infection sounds like a great new twist on the old trope. The kind of intellectual immersion idea we've come to expect from DBJ. Yeah, it also makes it. Yeah, it also allows for quite a bit of like, um, we want to, if it's going to be horrible, let the players feel the horror for quite a while, right? Like a save versus death from a disease or poison sucks. It's one or done. It's either they survive or don't. But to let it go on for hours or days or weeks, that's pretty badass. Yeah, it says, and the Gaziri who are kind of sort of good live on Limbo too. Do they have some sort of pact with the Slotty? Can you have a pact with a being of pure chaos? I don't know. They wouldn't hold true to that pact, would they? Yeah, Drew says talk with the players in session 0 about that before doing the brood thing in the game. And this is one of the reasons why people, many of us, have fallen in love with Planescape, but it is problematic. It's just as problematic as Dark Sun, right? Because it introduces, as you go through each plane, at least the lower the chaos planes and the evil planes, it always seems to introduce something that's very problematic with players. And I don't mean just like fold arms, I don't want to play the game, but like it introduces something, a monster that infects you with an egg and could probably kill your character off, or at least ultimately change them. Even at high levels, pretty bad. Drew, I agree with you, Drew. Drew says D&D Limbo sounds nothing like I would imagine Limbo from esoteric texts. I think it's a combination of wanting to include Limbo and yet change it from his history because they had to figure out where to put it. Because Limbo, from historical, real world historical context, has always come across as a waiting area for the soul or spirit, not an elemental soup of destruction. Um, so I'm surprised that Limbo didn't become Pandemonium, and Pandemonium, like they should have switched names, but I I I bet it was designed by a group and it settled into that. Yeah. Fry says, "Wow, another encasement in stone plane? How about instantly drowning?" Yeah, Limbo is made of some sort of primordial soup, isn't it? Yeah. He says, "But can't you will the environment in Limbo to change around you if you concentrate on it?" Part two. Here we go. Yes, part two. Okay, so there's something known as the sphere of influence. Okay, so to survive in the chaotic soup of Limbo, you must be able to enforce your willpower onto the plane and create a sphere of influence that transforms the plane into something safe for you to journey through. To control the area around you, you must focus your full concentration on the world around you, shaping and forming it to match what you want. Many who attempt this are unable to focus on anything else. Their whole attention must remain on keeping back the chaos, or they may falter and immediately perish in the chaos. So, right here, we have a little chart. The area of control is determined by a character's wisdom score, and higher it is, and the higher it is, the greater they can impose their will on the plane. A suggested chart for the sphere of influence is provided. This is taken from the Manual of the Planes from 2001, from third edition, and it gives you a wisdom score. So an average wisdom, say, of 8 to 11 gives you a 5-foot radius, and then the area of control is a 5-foot radius, and the stabilized area is none. If you go up to, say, 12 to 15, it turns to a 10-foot radius. 16 to 19 wisdom has a 15-foot radius. And then all the way up to 24 plus wisdom, you get plus 5 feet per 4 wisdom points. And then your stabilizing area goes out even further than that. Now, what do they mean by that? Well, and this is actually kind of cool, and it actually adds a little bit of a horror timer to it. But anyway, let's give the rest of this. A stabilized area is unaffected and cannot be changed by Limbo for at least 24 hours unless something comes along that would interact with it and destroy it. A stabilized area could be a pool of water, and while Limbo can't change that pool of water into liquid mercury, a massive fireball could blossom next to the pool of water and evaporate it into steam, thus destroying the stabilized area. And the point of that, and mixing, like, why would he what impose your wisdom? Well, the Githziri, who are known to be master psionicists and have an iron will and control their bodies, and of course, monks definitely fall into this category. Other clerics from the multiverse could come here and using their faith, the literally just they could just close their eyes and picture the world in the image of their deity or pantheon or something and impose their will. And of course there are the warriors, any warriors from around the the, the multiverse that are far more esoteric in their concepts. They don't just swing swords, but they control their body and their minds, would come here to test themselves and hey, maybe even find a place to for creating like a bulkhead in a great war or something like that. Uh, okay, she says, I think referencing Pandemonium and Limbo, I think the Planescape people wanted to make each plane be nothing like we would ever imagine, adding to the creepiness of it all. I can agree with that too, because our expectation says one thing, and you get there and you're like, ooh, maybe this is what it should really be, right? Yeah. So you're absolutely right. Yes, you can change the plane around you. And let's get back to before we start swimming in this primordial soup. If we get ourselves back to um, the gate town, let me share this image again with the slotty in it. We get back to the gate town of chaos. The Remember, the gate towns are not the pure intellectual, ethical, moral, or elemental part of the plane. It is a confluence because it exists in the plane of neutrality. So there's something that isn't chaotic and neutral about the plane to allow it to exist as a gate town. And in such a place, they have this. There's two notable sites, and let's because we're talking about the Githziri. So there's been a battle with the Githziri and the Githyanki through the um, throughout the multiverse. It's another one of the great battles. The Blood War is a big one, but another, I guess you'd call it like a shadow war that's been happening is with the Githziri and the Githyanki, and they were together. They were a slave race and they split apart, with the Githziri being more of like the lawful and good side of it, wanting to bring, the pain that they suffered. Instead, they want to bring peace. And then the Githyanki, which are like these great warriors, brutal warriors that were so harmed and traumatized that not only do they absolutely want to destroy the mind flayers that control them, but they will never ever be controlled. And so, in a weird way, they're like freedom fighters and chaos incarnate, but very brutal, holistic, because they learn their lessons well, so they're going to teach other people to do it. But within the gate town of chaos, supposedly there's a Githziri embassy of sorts, and it only exists because the monks that live there, and I mean monk lowercase, not like the player character, but the meditative power of them keeps their embassy a physical protected structure. And over time, they have individuals who come here to do nothing but concentrate on um, keeping it stable within the world of chaos. And I think that's a cool idea. I think it'd be awesome for the players to have to find this embassy of sorts, this meditative place. Maybe the player characters are monks or warriors or something, and they find this place and they have to find it past all the slotty that exists in here, trying to bring about chaos and madness to them, and or the player characters stumble to this gate town maybe through an elemental pathway instead by accident getting here. Yeah. Shai says Pandemonium Layer 1 being some sort of cave with no light and howling wind, for example. Nobody would ever expect that, right? But I digress. That's what I mean. I feel like Pandemonium and Limbo should exchange. But guess what? In a way, it kind of proves the point, because if you're a plane of chaos, you're not going to be what people expect. So it kind of proves its point. Also on in the gate town of chaos, there's something known simply as the cube. Recently, a unit of Modrons from the far end of the Outlands set out to establish a degree of order in chaos. The Modron solution was a lawful outpost, a polished brass polygon called the Cube. However, the gate town gradually corrupted the outpost, which collapsed in on its occupants. Now, the cube exists in a constant state of flux, an undulating four-dimensional mass of repeating fractals and um, microfied contours. Those who enter the cube are rarely seen again, and the few creatures that claim to have been inside the structure describe it as a hostile realm of mathematical impossibilities, a clockwork house of horrors. And it's going to be pretty difficult for me to show this to you. Um, but there's a pretty interesting piece of artwork here. Let's see if we can get to see if it'll zero in on the cube. Oh, that shows up pretty good. And there's like three little Modrons staring up at the cube, and the cube's got these like metal bands around it, and within those, underneath those metal bands, you just see uh, clockwork gears and the cube. And Shai says, Modrons, wouldn't they instantly explode on Limbo or go rogue or something? Modrons can go crazy, you know. Well, they're not. Remember, this is a gate town. This isn't Limbo itself. It's the gate town. And um, it kind of, despite the fact that we know outwardly that there's no way that true order will be brought to it, why wouldn't there be agents from uh from mechanists, the Modrons, try to impose order? That's their whole like modus operandi. As a matter of fact, I would expect that some of the slotty would be infiltrating some of the lawful planes to they themselves try to impose chaos into places that are lawful. Remember, this is an ideological war, and a cool one at that, right? So having some fun. Now, some uh, again, I'm going to bring this up that sometimes we are a little bit too. Sometimes, as in the role playing community, we're a little too smart for our own selves, and we're like, well, Modrons wouldn't be able to do it. Sure, because we know the at the end of the equation. We know it's not possible, but that doesn't mean they don't try, right? And so I think it'd be kind of cool. Maybe the player characters are led here. For example, if the players need to impose their will on a plane of complete chaos, which player character decides to do the concentration checks to keep the plane in order? Maybe they have a guide with them, like a Modron or a group of Modrons that kind of establish order so the players don't have to have that part of their brains occupied with doing such a thing. So there could be guides. Also, yeah, the Modrons might be driven crazy. Actually, if you think about it, the Modrons that leave Mechanists are kind of the crazy ones. So, yeah. It's just, oh, right, Modrons must be the one percenters who prevent the gate town from going 100% chaotic. Yep. Chaotic neutral and thus falling into limbo itself, right? Which, yes, this is weird to say. The Modrons, the 1% of the Modrons that are going out there trying to like instill order, and the Githziri, who themselves are, the Modrons are externally lawful and neutral, right? They are the external representation of that, and the Githziri are the internal representation of that. You know, I am the force, and the force is with me, right? Doing the martial thing, like closing their eyes and establishing order. And both of those groups within the border town of chaos keep it there, which in a weird way is kind of the point so that the town exists there. But it also says it's very difficult to find a gate. But again, why would players do this? Maybe it's a personal test. Someone tells or requests the player characters they have to travel through, you know, this gate to this gate town and survive there. And if you can find a gate into Limbo, um, that could be power. That could be the purpose. Again, the fetch quest of going after someone or something. Maybe there's a powerful bad guy has been literally running through the planes of existence, and the players are trying to chase them down. And this entity, a lich, a vampire lord, a someone with such great power that they can establish their own sphere of stability in the great plane of Limbo, hiding something there, and the player characters have to follow them to get there. Also, remember, if one or more of the player characters has to make a concentration check, concentrating on keeping the power of chaos away, that means if they're struck, and it doesn't say you have to be a wizard, the fighter, the ranger of the group, or whoever could literally be doing the concentration to create stability. But if they're hit and harmed and they lose lose their concentration, i.e., failing a saving throw, chaos will sweep in and someone else has to take over. And who knows what that chaos might be. I would just make a D6 to D12 table and literally list about 6 to 8 damage types, lightning, fire, whatever, and then aside to that, maybe some damage like dice damage, or which I think is far more interesting, I would have non-damaging side effects of the elemental chaos. Winds blow you away. You're trapped in a bubble of liquid. Solid stone or metal appears around the player character. They are, uh, I don't know, they're blinded. They're correct, engulfed in darkness or bright light or something. Uh, uh, Ball lightning goes through the battlefield or bolts of lightning strike or whatever. Like I would have that kind of thing happen over and over again and just make it like if they're struck by lightning, instead of the damage, let them get stunned or incapacitated or blinded or trapped or encased or moved or teleported or something like that, just to make it more interesting. I don't know. I don't know. That I just find that boring. Um, some other some other things that could be happening is that the player characters themselves might gain knowledge about a greater plot. So I can imagine coming into the gate town of chaos, trying to harness some of maybe someone is literally trying to use the resources of this elemental power, and that's how the elemental power is brought into the great um, planes of the alignment planes, right? Like the harnessing the power of electricity and fire and things like that, and someone's using magic to use that in a great war themselves, and the player characters find out like who's doing this. The player characters find some allies, or they need to find an ally, and the ally's not going to come to them. They have to go to there, and maybe they get to the Githzeri embassy, and there's actually a secret within the Githzeri embassy anyway, that's right here on the border between limbo and chaos, and the player characters might find a safe haven. Maybe there is no such thing as a long rest, short rest in the world, in the plane of chaos, until you get to the embassy, and then I don't know, you see a dozen martial warriors, chanting and concentrating, and the PCs get there real quiet and stuff, and you know, someone talks to them telepathically in their great robes, whatever, and goes to the player character, and it's like, you found us. You talking to them in their minds, and they say, only the greatest warriors and adventurers have been able to find us here. Here is the key. The one thing, hold it close. It will create stability in the world of chaos or something. And maybe that's their reward. Um, Also, this is a great place to punish someone by the player characters. If the player characters are playing, I want to call it police procedural, right? Maybe the PCs are warriors. They are policemen. They are lowercase r rangers in a wild world of, instead of um, forest rangers in a park, maybe the player characters are multi-dimensional rangers in a vast world of law and chaos, good and evil, doing battle with each other. And the PCs are just like, look, all we're here is to solve crimes. And limbo, pandemonium, uh, um, carceri could literally be carceri. Jesus, I'm butchering. I apologize. Carceri, whatever. These places could be places that the player characters are employed by. This is their calling. Hey, we're going to take a bad guy and throw him down in limbo and see what happens. Shice says, would the petitioners to limbo all be hardcore schizophrenics? Because in order to get sent there in the afterlife, you couldn't have any shred of normality in you, right? Yeah. I mean, a bunch of sociopaths. I mean, or here's a wild one. Maybe limbo isn't okay. the petitioners that come here. So, for those who don't know, petitioners are souls. Essentially, people have passed away in a natural sense. Humanity passes away. Someone who was truly chaotic neutral gets sent here as a petitioner into limbo, and they are here now. Carcera, you said it perfectly the first time. No, I didn't. don't don't tell me I did something right. But those a petitioner is a soul that is sent to a plane of existence that most accurately aligns with their alignment. And when they get here to this plane, in a way, the petition of it is, do they belong in this place? Does the alignment that they've lived and is true to their self in the prime material plane, does it align here? Yes, I think some people. Now it could be. So here's the thing: some people who have true mental afflictions, maybe they really need to be on a plane of chaos, or the Githziri and other agents that create stability. Maybe they fall. Someone who is schizophrenic, psychopathic, sociopathic, has many other mental afflictions that causes them to do crazy different things. Maybe when they get here, it's a split. Do they go slotty or do they go Githziri? Right? Is it slotty or Ziri? Right? Do they come here and have the ultimate chance to really center themselves and leave the chaos outside and control themselves inside? And maybe limbo is nothing but the chaos of all these people that have come here. And if you could find individuals, maybe they are surrounded by a maelstrom of their own mental, not just afflictions, but their own mental state. So for them, it's normal. For us, it's chaos. So people like, for example, there are people who try to navigate the world who have very severe ADHD. For them, their world, manic depressed, mania, manic depression, and all that kind of stuff. Maybe for them, this plane of existence is so wild that it perfectly matches their chaos, and it feels like home. Where to us, we can't keep up with it, and that would be pretty interesting. Shai says sociopaths are not necessarily purely chaotic, though. That's true. That's true. They just don't care about doing bad things to people. Oh, I remember from a television show, The Pretender, and they had these people. Sorry, the television show Pretender were about these geniuses, and they were children that were collected by an organization and trained, harnessing their power, their mental power. And one of the bad guys had graduated from this place and became really evil and was going around doing harmful things. And this lady was like kidnapped, and she's like, "You're a psychopath." And the guy stops, and the music stops, and he goes, "Well, not technically. Actually, I'm a sociopath." He says, "See, psychopaths don't know they're doing good or bad. I'm a sociopath. I know I'm doing bad things. I just don't care." And I was just like, I love that line when he's just, everything stopped and he went, "No, you're actually wrong. I'm more a sociopath." I was like, damn. I love it. Says, they don't care with no scruples, so they doing bad things to people with no scruples, so they'd be more likely to end up in Gehenna or um carceri, don't you think? Yeah, maybe. Although, would a person be judged based on an affliction they don't have control over? You would have to make your own decisions with that. And we're going to go, because I think, because Drew has kind of brought this up. Drew Fuzz has kind of brought up a thing here. So anyway, he says, "Dude, I have all those disorders, but I still manage to get shit done and mostly abide the law. The NAP at least. Hey, I paid my freedom fee. I ain't going to limbo." Yeah, I wonder about that. I don't know if I would. I don't know if people would get sent someplace with an affliction they don't have control over, but I don't know. The Rave. Hey, what's up, Rave? Mm-mm-mm. I ain't going to limbo or pandemonium. What did you put up there? See if it shows up. G47 hello. That's what it shows up as. Hey, what's going on there? Oh, I'm good. Just taking a break from work. Sweet. So I also think maybe um if we how to explain this? Limbo could also be a dumping ground of sorts, so that a petitioner maybe is able to separate the harmful chaos that has been afflicting them their entire life to the more peaceable um order that they desire. So that could also be a thing as well, that maybe limbo isn't an elemental plane. Maybe limbo is a for each person's chaos that arrives here, it just feeds on that thing more and more. Which, here's another storyline: maybe the players are introduced to limbo and its chaos and its border town of XAOS chaos, and they realize like it's actually not as chaotic as we think it is, because there are pockets of chaos that align with an individual's brain. So maybe they can come here and find nightmares and dreams and um, current day thoughts and someone's fears of the future and such, and then find information, but the PCs get caught up in such a thing so that they're literally in a non-Euclidean dungeon within limbo because they've gone into someone's um, dark brain of center of their brain and not realize that a great peaceful monk is like, that's the world I left behind, that's a piece of me that I left behind. And the PCs, yeah, but you forgot something, we need to go in there and find out what you forgot. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Says, insanity you don't have control over. That surely must affect what plane you go to when you die. The ex okay, I'm going to butcher how it's pronounced. The chaosetics, for example, they aren't like that by choice. Most of them are insane, right? Yeah. Although, okay, yeah, the quick answer is yes, they are. The sub answer is, do we want to mold that into a more modern outlook on life? And this again sparks something that Drew brought up before, so I'm going to get into this. One Eye Heathen says mental illness is often portrayed in problematic ways in tabletop RPGs, which I absolutely agree. So we can always retcon so people don't end up in places by way of having mental illness, or maybe if they do, it leads to interesting plot lines. Which I like the idea that if you want to say that people with mental afflictions or chaotic mental affliction or whatever, that they go to certain planes, maybe that's the point. Maybe it is unfair. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a thing that player characters are trying to solve, right? And so instead of retconning it, instead of out of game retconning a thing, maybe the players are literal agents of retcon. Like they are going to the planes of existence to go, this is bullshit. Like this isn't how it's supposed to work. And they're going in to literally retcon reality back to a state where if they solve a thing, it changes the whole thing. For example, Heathen, I think you even brought up the fact that there is no ability for people to become completely lawful and good. Well, maybe it's unfair. Maybe there really is. Maybe the planes of lawful good are so restrictive that no one can get in, and it's unfair. Everybody gets dumped somewhere else, or the player characters navigate around the planes of, especially the evil and the chaotic planes, and they go there, and they're like, "There's people here who shouldn't be here. Like, we need to change this." And maybe they become the movers and shakers, or the player characters are the unwitting agents of a way to reestablish what the power dynamic is. Which, here we go with some drama, right? Great idea for bad guys or even the good guys to go, you're changing up the status quo, we need to stop you. And that would be pretty interesting to have strange bedfellows of like, 3 celestials and 7 fiends teaming up together to go after PCs because they're trying to change up the status quo. uh, Yeah, you find a loved one is in one of the hells because they were a sociopath, but you know it was through no fault of their own, so you must retrieve their soul. Absolutely. And who's to say that you aren't their petitioner to get them out of the nine hells, to take them to one of the goodly planes where an agent of the goodly planes is like, they're not allowed in here, and you're like, oh yes they are, and we're making sure that they go to the place where they deserve to be. And so I think challenging it within game, I think is would be hard but worth it. I think it'd be kind of cool. Yeah, I think your actions as opposed to your condition must have to do with it, right? You could be stark raving mad and not know what order is and still not go to a chaos plane, right? I, I don't think we actually know. Um, and I think we each have our own, how do I say this? Um, because we are all individuals, like I think the person who suffers with a condition and doesn't want to and does something that they didn't desire to do wouldn't be punished and sent to lower planes. But I think someone who does something like that, realizes that they did it, and then is glad they did it, is a different story, right? Um, so yeah, the person who steals from someone else or lies and then feels bad about it is different than the person who lies and steals and doesn't care, if that makes sense. Drew says if disorders are based on brain chemistry, then it should not determine the place in the afterlife, since those aspects are not part of your eternal soul. That's true too. Yeah, 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 yeah. Maybe if you believe in the reincarnation of something, some would say maybe they're being challenged or whatever. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Right, agree with this comment. Like if as long as you do not do anything chaotic, like if you just sit there like a vegetable and do nothing, but your mind's full of chaos, would that automatically make you chaotic? And that's always been the problem with alignment, right? Are you born with an alignment? Technically, no, because you can actually change your alignment based on your behavior and your beliefs and your ethics and morality. Yeah, but yeah, and Drew says, but D&D, doesn't really have mental disorders in the first place. While I would go the other way around and kick the nonsensical alignment system out and have the afterlife determined differently. See, I like the fact that it's been predetermined because now you have friction to go against there, Drew. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying I like the fact that there's something that is. I appreciate the fact that it is uh, improperly created there, that it's built on a fumbling foundation, because that's a great way for the player characters to challenge it, right? Like how cool would it be for the players to go to like the neutral good plane and challenge their concepts, or go down in the nine hells and like free people that are down there, and or whatever. I think that's a great idea. I don't know. I mean, do I think do I've never had a problem with the alignment system. I think people have a problem with the alignment system for two reasons. One, they have a problem with it because they know that other people don't understand it the way they do. So our issue is other people not understanding our issue with it. And second of all, the whole idea of the straight jacketing thing, I think is BS. I think when you have categories, we often don't like to be placed in those categories. And there's something animalistic in our brain that when you categorize people, we have an instant rebellion against that categorization. So when those categories are created out of game, we already are bristling. Now we're playing a game with rules that reinforces those categories, and I think we're constantly pushed on that, like, oh, I'm pushing against it, and then all of a sudden we start having 45-minute arguments about what alignment is outside the game without sitting down and like playing the game in the first place. Yeah. One Eye Heathen says, I like the idea of the PC speaking for or against the soul in a situation like this. Maybe a person who's done a lot of harm was fighting hard the entire time, not to, or a person who did good because it was just so super easy for them, had no struggle or actual care for doing good. Exactly. Most of us, it can be very difficult for us to measure someone because we don't know their life experiences, right? I mean, if if you're lying and stealing and cheating, is that automatically bad? Like, how would you rate someone who is a CIA agent who lies and cheats and steals and backstabs for the good of their people? How about a family member that does the same thing? You know what? I'm going to sell drugs to make money to take care of my family. Well, you're doing evil for a good thing. So where do you get placed? And I think because it is an because the planes of existence are um not they don't have nuance. I think it'd be cool for the player character to do that. And Shai says Planescape is intended to show up the silliness of the alignment system. Exactly. Right? Yeah. Drew says, DBJ, have you by now watched American Gods? No. Dead Wife, the atheist, had an interesting afterlife there. Is that a name of a character? I tangentially know about American Gods. Like I know there was like a god of stories were told, like the god of television and media, and like literally modern day gods, and they had to navigate the world. And I think the alignment system is kind of like that. Like, what if all the powers that be in the alignment system are actually kind of outdated? Like literally outdated. Like you haven't changed all these millennia. You haven't changed. You're like, well, it's worked for us. Like, no, it doesn't. Shai says the alignment planes and the creatures that inhabit them are over the top. Yep. Planescape is a tongue-in-cheek parody of the alignment system with some intellectual philosophy stuff thrown in. Yeah, yeah. And I think it if you kind of think about it, if you are of any of the alignments, so imagine a player character. I mean, imagine yourself playing a player character of any of the 9 alignments. And then your character naturally dies and goes to one of these planes of existence. Would you of that alignment want to be there? In a way, actually nobody wants to be in any of those planes. Even the evil people, like you know how horrible it is to be in those evil planes? I could see evil people breaking good instead of breaking bad. I could see evil people breaking good, like fuck this, like I'm not want to be here. Yeah, for the greater good. Exactly, from Hot Fuzz. Yeah. Yeah, it's for the greater good or whatever. Yeah, while these creatures are often over the top, I don't view it as a parody so much as a philosophical playground. Maybe both. I think it's listen, there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek silliness. I mean, Modrons, really? I mean, really, they're pretty silly. It's pretty silly. And there are some tongue-in-cheek, funny, ironic things thrown in. Uh, and you need the comedy because if you didn't add some comedic elements to it, it would be a little bit too heavy. But I feel like it's very much a philosophical playground. I mean, imagine imagine having your philosophy majors in this playground, this physical playground of philosophy, of ethics and morality and trolley problems and all that kind of stuff, and then going like, wow, ooh, this is, you turn the volume up pretty high on some of these alignments and it's pretty, really. I thought I turned it off. So yeah, I love it. Sure, it's both, but the absoluteness of the alignment system has nothing to do with reality. Yeah, yeah. Modrons, yeah, the the chaos aesthetics, the archons, Yugoloths, yeah, they're pretty wild. I mean, even Slotty kind of don't make sense in a pure chaos. Because okay, here's how this is just me spitballing, right? If I had to make up a chaos creature, I would make um a 3-point columns, D6 to D10 or D12, and then I would put creatures in 3 different columns. and I would find some creatures, and I would pick them so randomly in this in these columns that each creature next to the other creature does not make sense. An ooze, an owlbear, um, a fiend, a giant, a fey creature. Like I would just do chaos, and then I'd have roll on one table, roll on the second table, roll on the third table, and every round that creature just shifts from one to the other. I'd probably organize it by hit points so that like a 50-ish hit point creature transforms randomly into another 50th 50 hit point other creature, and just go every round, maybe randomly or in order or something, and it just goes from one thing. Hey, round 2 it's a fire giant. Round 3 it's a giant ooze. Round 4 it's an elemental ice creature. Round 5, it goes back to I don't know, a basilisk. Route 6, it goes to an ooze. Route 7, it's a fire giant again. Like I literally make them chaotic and keep the same hit points, but every round it just keeps changing. The PC is like, what the f- is this? Yeah. My character is erotic evil. uh Erotic the evil, didn't we have that? It's coming up. It's coming up because there's a gate town that's kind of like that. Juice, as long as you're not esoteric evil. The day of necrophilia. Ugh, it's only a matter of time before we get there. Can we say problematic? All right. Spitballing a couple of other reasons for coming to this plane of existence. It could be um, a major duel between the player characters and their enemy, and the enemy basically the PCs say, we're going to confront you," and the enemy goes, "Great, I get to pick where," and the PCs are like, "What?" And there maybe the Limbo is a battlefield, or at least the gate town is a battlefield. Also, again, the gate towns are a way for us to introduce your player characters a little bit to a place like this. And maybe the player characters have to maybe the gate is open to Limbo and there are creatures and power stuff is flowing out of it and they need to close it down. Um, like Shai says, yeah, would a creature of pure chaos not be constantly changing form? Like its physical matter would be totally unstable, right? I agree. I would do that. Yeah. I should put that up permanently. Yeah. Yeah. Rule 134. If it exists, there's a day of it. Yeah. Hey, who's to say the day of chaos isn't any other random day that they pick? Like, I didn't know today was the day of chaos. Well, listen, it has to be because it's a random day. We had a day of chaos 3 weeks ago. Yep. Isn't it tomorrow? How did tomorrow become the day of chaos as well? Drew says, yes, it's fun. That's reason enough. Have some drunken bard and drunken rogue approach a wizard. So we made a bet. And see, here's what happened. See, what happened was, okay, um, there's something else too. Again, we don't have to have the planes of existence do not have to operate the way they do in the book at all. Or the books that we hold in hand, like written by unreliable narrators, could be a thing that maybe the planes of existence really aren't in. Um, there isn't as much stability as we would like to think they are in the game. Maybe they keep bleeding over and spilling out and contracting and expanding. And again, maybe the plane of limbo once again starts expanding out, and the chaotic creatures down below are like, yes, we got a great playground. But the lawful beings are like, we got to put a stop to this. Yeah, Modrons, you're not doing your job. We need to send some outsiders here who can actually solve this problem. Step in the player characters who are agents of not order but balance of sorts, and maybe the players do come from or have some tangential connection to these places, and maybe there are creatures of chaos that are like, no, to you it's chaos, to us it's just regular, just another day. Here, let me take you to some of my favorite places. And It could be that the player characters have to shrink it down, take a key instead of using a key to go through a portal. Maybe it's a key to lock a portal, or there are chaotic powers that are being fueled by the chaos, and the slotty themselves could be agents of giving or navigating some chaotic monsters to this place to be fueled once again. And the slotty are like the chaotic drug dealers of the universe, throwing random things and such. Oh, shice. Oh, seriously, dude. Indeed, it is a godsend that DBJ is back on the scene now that MacArthur's dead and Andrew hardly ever posts anymore. At least we got a couple adults left from the beginning. Thanks for calling me an adult. Yeah. Is Andrew the barbarian horde guy who made Within the Ring of Fire? He sure is. He sure is. Yeah. And I guess I'm just a person who falls in between the crevice of, I do agree that in the role playing scene there are problematic things, but I'm also falling the side of don't get rid of them. Just use those things, right? Don't erase it, don't sanitize it. How about we understand it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wish he did post more. Yeah, and life gets in the way. Life, the chaos of life gets in the way. Lastly, if we don't want to go full on random die rolling chaos that is so bleak and confusing that there's nothing to hold on to, I think one thing that's possible is to, how do I say this? Sometimes when we world build, we put a little too much predictability to a thing, a little bit too much. But the gate town itself might change. Let's say let's extend the time range out. Let's say it changes every week, and something about it where this may be a place for the player characters to come semi regularly. Maybe the agents that live here, the NPCs, the environment, the way it looks, the way it behaves. Every week, it just keeps. Every time the players come back, whether it's an hour, a day, a month, every time they come back, it's completely different. And the pieces are like, Game Master, did you forget something? And you're like, no, no, no. The streets have they twist in on top of each other and they spiral to different levels. And you're like, I don't remember you describing it like that way last time. But maybe it's the fact that it just keeps changing because, like expressed here, the leadership keeps changing randomly because of these crystals that circle like a crystalline crown circles over the head of one or more people who happen to be the random leaders picked randomly by the gate town itself. And so it changes every time. And it would be kind of cool for, hey, this is the last time I learned a pyromantic spell and the PCs get there and it's a frozen wasteland. And they're like, what the hell happened here? You know? and then they leave and they come back and it's a jungle, and they leave and they come back and it's a vast desert. And then you start changing it that way. Okay, it's a frozen wasteland of purple crystals, or it is a desert wasteland of blackened glass, or a dense jungle that doesn't have or jungle or rainforest that doesn't have a bottom. It's just vines. And the PCs are just like, hey, what's going on, guys? And like, your tavern is in the trees? I thought it was in the middle of a desert. I'm like, yeah, I remember you mentioning that, but I don't remember it. Shai says, let's face it, the overwhelming majority of D&D channels out there are for idiots, and they all have tens of thousands of subs. Yeah. A lot of it's negative too. I'm not a naturally negative individual, and it's very easy to be destructive. Like right now, the big thing is beating up on WotC and how terrible WotC is. And while that may be true, I don't garner anything creative out of it. It would be because negativity boils down to one thing. Let's destroy the thing, great, and then everyone sits around twiddling their thumbs because now they have nothing else to do. Um, it's dopamine hits, and I'm not really into the dopamine hits. Yeah, life need to learn how to pause for gaming. I agree with you there. All right, man. Hey, you guys have a great one. Drew says it is not the toe that is changing, but only the perception of the characters. They are pretty much on drugs. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the town. It's just, it's just a perception of the character. Which, yeah, I mean, could there be a plane? How do I explain this? Maybe the plane of limbo is nothing but an empty room, and it only looks like chaos because everyone that gets here is influenced by it, but really there isn't anything happening. It's just it's a the entire plane is like one giant empty room. Yeah, I saw the episode. Yes, Loki, which I did see that as well. Loki had a great point about destruction is easy. Destruction is very easy. Um, there's whole channels. What is the one that first one that comes to mind? And there's millions of this. Is like Nerdrotic's channel about like it's woke Hollywood. It's this sucks. This show sucks. I'm going. Who's who spends their time engaging in things they don't like? Right? Like if you really think about it, I understand. Let's say you do book reviews and you read books and you're like, all I do is read the top 10 books that are, you know, New York Times top 10 books. Well, you're going to come across a number of books where you're like, this just fucking sucks. Like, why is it in the top 10? But to purposefully engage in a thing you don't like all the time means that it feels like you're not adding to the discussion of making like, well, if you don't like these things, what's something that you would suggest I do like? And yeah, it's pretty midnight tonight when the veil between reality and the other world is thinnest, the only fraction of eternity that's not arbitrary. Yep. It's today only Devil's Night and tomorrow Halloween. Yes, happy Halloween, everyone. And for some reason, and we get this all the time, at least here in the States, there are the anti-Halloweeners who are like, it's paganism and stuff like that. And we all know that um, celebrations are consensus based and that they change throughout time, much like Christmas and Thanksgiving here. Thanksgiving here in the States is another one that has like shifted and changed and things like that through consensus, even if it didn't exist in its original form to begin with. So, yep. Drew says it's today only Devil's Night and tomorrow Halloween. We used to call it Mischief Night, and not used to. Still is. People throwing toilet paper in the trees and burning dog shit on in paper bags on people's porches and stuff like. How people don't do that anymore. Soaping windows was a thing. Yeah, horrible. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for spending some of your time with me. I really appreciate it. It's very valuable. I hope I can make change for you and yours. Time to drop acid in the graveyard and try to meet a ghost and talk to owls and ravens and howl at the moon and stuff. Sounds like a good night. Yeah. Gonna be lively back home on the streets of the D. Guys, have a great one. I really appreciate it. Everybody have a great evening, morning, evening, afternoon. And we're going to continue our talk about the planes of existence and the gate towns and such as we go on and come up with some ideas like why would we bother using them. And of course, this Friday, we'll probably talk about the Jove, the Jovian system in my setting, the Obsidian portal. And I'll start getting the rules together because I'm trying to do a little bit of layout and things like that. But anyway, I'll get the Google Doc set up and then lay it out later or something. But anyway, guys, have a great one. I'll see thee later. Have a peaceful one. See, tomorrow is tomorrow. We're gonna do Torch, connected to the bleak eternity of Gehenna. Gehenna. Yugoloths, Gehenna. we're finally going there. I wanted to switch it up a little bit for the lower planes so that we weren't. I mean, I was going to do side by side, but they blend so much together. So yeah, Gehenna's tomorrow. So guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace.